They roared through the 60s and 70s, took over drag strips, highways, and hearts. But somehow, the world moved on. These 5 muscle legends once ruled the roads, and if you're over 50, you probably remember them better than your first love. Buick GSX, Super Bee, the Forgotten Javelin AMX. They're not just cars, they're a part of your story. Let's bring them back for one last ride.
The jet age dream that almost took flight. A car from the future. In the early 1960s, Chrysler unveiled something no other American automaker had dared to put on the road. A fully operational car powered by a gas turbine engine. Not just one for a show, they built 55 of them, and 50 were handed out to real people across America for a full year as part of a public test program. It looked like something Batman would drive, sounded like a Learjet, and was designed to run on nearly any combustible fuel, even tequila. But despite the promise, the turbine car never went into full production. A jet for the road. Specification, details. Engine type, gas turbine, model A831. Power output, 130 HP at 36,000 RPM. Torque, 425 pounds-foot at 0 RPM. Max RPM, 44,500 RPM. Transmission, 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic. Weight of engine, 410 pounds. Fuel flexibility, ran on diesel, kerosene, jet fuel, unleaded gasoline, tequila, perfume, even peanut oil. The turbine engine had 80% fewer moving parts than a piston engine. It compressed air, ignited it with fuel, spun a turbine, and used the exhaust to propel the car, similar to a jet. Very smooth power delivery. Virtually no maintenance. No radiator, the turbine ran hot but efficiently. Fuel flexibility. Lag in throttle response, turbo lag times 10. Massive heat output. Loud whining jet sound. Poor fuel economy, approximately 13 to 15 mpg. Expensive to build and repair. The Turbine 50. Chrysler wanted real-world feedback, so they built 55 turbine cars, 5 prototypes, and 50 Ghia-bodied cars, and gave them to 203 drivers across 133 cities between 1963 through 1966. Participants included housewives in Michigan, businessmen in California, taxi drivers in New York. They were told to drive the car as they normally would, and Chrysler gathered data on how the car handled everything, from cold starts to long road trips. People loved the smooth, vibration-free ride. Complaints were mostly about the throttle delay and loud jet noise. Some loved the space-age styling, others thought it was weird. A rolling rocket ship. The 1963 Chrysler turbine car was hand-built by Carrozzeria Ghia of Italy. It mixed space-age looks with American muscle presence. 2-door hardtop coupe, turbine bronze paint only, custom blended. Afterburner-style taillights, jet turbine-style center grille. Deep dish steering wheel with turbine-style dash. Aircraft-inspired gauges, EGT, RPM, start sequence. Rear-mounted air vents for turbine cooling. Only turbine bronze was available because Chrysler didn't want people customizing something so futuristic-looking. Category. Details. 0-60 miles, 12 seconds. Top speed, 120 miles. MPG, 13 to 15 mpg on unleaded. Range, 300 miles per tank. Weight, 3,950 pounds. Not a rocket on the road, but the smooth torque curve made it feel quick from a standstill. There was a 1 to 2 second delay when flooring the throttle, not ideal for quick maneuvers. Why it never made it to production. Despite being reliable and stylish, the turbine car program was shelved in 1966. Why? Cost. Each car cost $50,000 plus to build, over $500,000 today. Emissions. Though cleaner in some aspects, turbines produced high NOx emissions. Fuel economy. Poor compared to piston engines. Throttle lag. Hard to drive in stop-go traffic. Political pressure. Chrysler scrapped the cars just before the 1970 Clean Air Act and rising safety regulations. Import duty. Ghia built the bodies in Italy, and customs wanted high tariffs if the cars were sold in the U.S. Out of the 55 built, only 9 turbine cars survived. The rest were destroyed and scrapped by Chrysler, not for secrecy, but for tax and liability reasons. The survivors went to museums and private collectors. Jay Leno owns one and drives it often. Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. When tested by everyday Americans, many were stunned. It sounds like a spaceship and drives like a dream. No vibration at all. It just glides. You hit the gas and nothing happens for a second. Then, boom! Too much noise. Sounds like a vacuum cleaner eating aluminum foil. Although it never made production, the Chrysler turbine car helped. Advanced turbine tech for future military and industrial use. Influence experimental vehicle programs at GM and Ford. Inspire pop culture, including the Jetsons and even the Batmobile. More than anything, it proved that Chrysler was willing to take bold risks during a time when most automakers played it safe. Featured in Jay Leno's garage with full driving impressions. Appeared in the video game Gran Turismo 4. Inspired the Jetson-style futuristic car design for years to come. Heavily referenced in Mad Men, Top Gear, and Mythbusters. The jet age car that almost changed everything. The 1963 Chrysler turbine car wasn't a failure. It was an ambitious success in engineering, public testing, and design. It proved a jet-powered future could work, but also showed that cost, regulations, and practicality could bring even the wildest dreams back down to earth. Only 55 ever built. Only 9 remain. Real turbine-powered, not just a concept. One of the most legendary prototypes in automotive history.
Preston Tucker's revolutionary vision. In post-WW2 America, the car industry was booming, but innovation had stalled. Most automakers were recycling pre-war designs. Enter Preston Tucker, a visionary inventor and entrepreneur who believed the American public deserved more than reheated designs and outdated safety standards. Tucker set out to build a radically modern, safe, and fast family car, a vehicle that could outperform anything else on the road and save lives doing it. The result was the Tucker 48, often called the Tucker Torpedo. Only 51 cars were ever built before the company collapsed under the weight of lawsuits, political pressure, and controversy. Yet today, the Tucker 48 remains one of the most legendary and collectible American cars of all time. Specification, details. Engine, 334 cubic inch, 5.5 liter Franklin 0335 air-cooled flat 6 modified aircraft engine. Power output, 166 horsepower. Torque, 372 pound-feet. Top speed, 120 miles per hour, 193 kilometers per hour. Transmission, Cord 810 based pre-selector plus experimental Tucker-matic automatic. Drive layout, rear engine, rear-wheel drive, RR. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 10 seconds. The car's original engine concept was a 589 cubic inch aluminum flat 6 with fuel injection and hemispherical combustion chambers, but it proved too complex. Tucker instead bought aircraft engines from air-cooled motors and adapted them for automotive use, a move that became, ironically, one of the reasons for his legal troubles later. Decades ahead of its time, the Tucker 48 wasn't just fast, it was smart. Tucker's top priority was passenger safety, an unusual focus in the 1940s when most automakers treated safety as an afterthought. Cyclops center headlight, a third headlight that turned with the steering wheel, like today's adaptive headlights. Safety cell cabin, designed to protect passengers in a crash. Pop-out windshield, designed to eject in a crash to avoid shattering into occupants. Padded dashboard, one of the first cars with padded interiors for safety. Reinforced perimeter frame, strong steel cage construction. Front and rear crumple zones, absorbed impact to protect passengers. No front glove box. That space was reserved for passengers to crawl into in case of a crash, called the crash chamber. Tucker was obsessed with building the safest car in the world, and in many ways, he did. 30 to 40 years before the industry caught up. The torpedo from tomorrow. Styled by Alex Tremulis, who had previously worked with Auburn Cord Duesenberg, the Tucker 48's design was pure jet age fantasy. Long, low, and sleek, with a teardrop profile, the car resembled a rocket more than a sedan. Length, 219 inches, 5.56 meters. Width, 79 inches, 2.01 meters. Height, 60 inches, 1.52 meters. Curb weight, 4,200 pounds, 1,905 kilograms. Wheelbase, 128 inches. The body was made of steel with aluminum and fiberglass elements. The sweeping fenders, integrated headlights, and curved glass gave it a fluid, futuristic appearance, unlike anything else on American roads at the time. A dream derailed. Tucker secured the Dodge Chicago Aircraft Engine Plant, a massive 475-acre facility, and began retooling it for car production. The company raised $17 million via stock offerings and dealer franchise sales, at the time the largest pre-production fundraising effort in automotive history. However, things went wrong quickly. The prototype wasn't ready by the time of public demos. The radical engine and transmission combo caused delays. Suppliers and dealers became nervous. The SEC's Securities and Exchange Commission opened an investigation into alleged fraud. Many believe the Detroit Big Three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, and Washington insiders played a role in bringing Tucker down. Tucker's cars were not only revolutionary, they were a threat to the status quo. In 1949, Preston Tucker was put on trial for fraud, accused of misusing investors' money and not intending to produce the car. After a sensational trial, he and his colleagues were acquitted of all charges. But it was too late. The company was bankrupt, and the dream was dead. 47 still exist today. Many are in museums and private collections. Auction prices today, $1.5 million to $3 million plus. Hershey Museum in PA. The Peterson Automotive Museum in CA. Jay Leno's garage. He doesn't own one, he wants one. Francis Ford Coppola owns one. His father was an early Tucker investor. Pop culture impact. Movie, Tucker, The Man and His Dream, 1988. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola and starring Jeff Bridges as Preston Tucker. Gran Turismo 6 features the Tucker 48. Frequently featured in documentaries about lost innovations. Quotes about the Tucker 48. It's the car that Detroit was afraid of, automotive historians. Had this car gone into production, the American auto industry might have evolved in a completely different way. Jay Leno. He was 30 years ahead of his time. Francis Ford Coppola. Ockburge sighed. The original name was the Tucker Torpedo, but it was dropped to avoid war-related associations. Early prototypes used helicopter engines before switching to the Franklin aircraft engine. A few Tuckers were crashed on purpose to demonstrate safety features. All passengers walked away. Tucker's dream still rolls on. The 1948 Tucker was a bold experiment, a car designed not by committee, but by a single man's vision. It promised performance, safety, and style years ahead of its time. Though crushed by political and financial forces, the Tucker remains a symbol of what could have been. It challenges us to imagine an America where innovation triumphed over bureaucracy, where cars could be safer, better, and more exciting, all thanks to one man who dared to dream.
The dream machine that shaped a generation. In the aftermath of World War II, America was consumed by aviation, rockets, and the dawning space age. Aircraft design influenced everything from household appliances to architecture, and nowhere was this inspiration more obvious than in the 1951 General Motors LeSabre concept car. Built not as a production prototype, but as a rolling testbed and design manifesto, the LeSabre wasn't just a futuristic show car, it was a technological marvel that predicted the next 2 decades of automotive design and innovation. More than a beautiful machine, the LeSabre was a statement of what cars could become, blending aircraft engineering, space-age materials, and daring aesthetics in a single unforgettable form. Harley Earl. The GM LeSabre was the brainchild of Harley J. Earl, the legendary head of GM's design division and the man responsible for inventing the American concept car. Earl had already transformed GM's image with innovations like the tail fin and streamlining, but the LeSabre was his boldest leap yet. Inspired by fighter jets like the F-86 Sabre, from which it takes its name, Earl envisioned a car that would push boundaries in design, performance, and materials. He wasn't just dreaming, he was predicting the entire aesthetic of the 1950s and 60s. Technical specifications and engineering marvels. At its core, the LeSabre was a functioning test platform packed with experimental technologies that wouldn't be seen in production cars for decades. Specification. Details. Engine. 215 cubic inches or 3.5 liters supercharged V8. Power output, approximately 335 horsepower. Fuel system, dual fuel, gasoline or methanol or alcohol. Supercharger, yes, centrifugal type. Transmission, rear-mounted Hydromatic, a 4-speed auto. Drive layout, rear-wheel drive, FR layout. Aluminum body panels, lightweight and resistant to corrosion. 12-volt electrical system, while most cars of the era still used 6-volt. Rain-sensing automatic convertible top, a sensor in the rear deck detected rain and raised the top automatically. Heated seats, among the first cars in the world to feature them. Electric jacks built into the frame allowed tire changes without a separate jack. Aircraft-style instrumentation. Gauges were styled like a cockpit with curved glass. This was not just designed for show. The LeSabre ran, drove, and served as Harley Earl's personal car for 2 years. A rolling fighter plane. Nothing before 1951 looked like the LeSabre. Its shape was fluid, long and low, with dramatic curves and proportions reminiscent of jet aircraft. The car measured over 17 feet long, 204 inches, but sat low to the ground thanks to its rear transaxle and torsion bar suspension, giving it a sporty, almost alien presence on the road. Key design elements. Wraparound windshield inspired by aircraft canopies. This became a standard feature in cars by the late 50s. Twin nose intakes mimicking jet engine air intakes. A central jet intake in the grille, functional and dramatic, reminiscent of the F-86 Sabre fighter. Finned rear end predicted the tail fin craze of the late 1950s. And hidden headlights. Pop-up lights hidden in the nose, a feature not seen again until the 1960s on production models. Polished chrome and aluminum, used extensively throughout to create a futuristic high-tech appearance. The LeSabre was finished in brilliant silver metallic, another nod to aircraft fuselages. Unlike most concept cars of the 1950s, the 1951 LeSabre still exists today. It is carefully preserved in the GM Heritage Center in Michigan and is occasionally displayed at major automotive events. Its unique mechanical configuration, aluminum and magnesium construction, and irreplaceable parts make it too valuable to drive today, but it remains one of the most legendary and iconic concept vehicles ever built. Though not widely known outside of auto enthusiast circles, the LeSabre is frequently featured in automotive design history books, Jay Leno's Garage episodes, automotive design college curriculums, and documentaries on GM's Motorama era. It also helped establish the Motorama concept car era of the 1950s, which brought other dream cars like the Firebird XP21, Buick Wildcat, and Cadillac Cyclone. Quote, "The LeSabre was Harley Earl's Mona Lisa, a car designed to inspire, not to be built." Unquote. This was from GM historian David Temple. Quote, "You can't underestimate the importance of this car. It wasn't just a show car. It was the vision of a new automotive age." Unquote. This was from Jay Leno. Name origin, named after the F-86 Sabre jet. Year built 1951. Body, aluminum and magnesium. Engine, supercharged dual-fuel V8. Production, only one ever made. Price today estimated, priceless. Never sold. A machine from tomorrow. The 1951 GM LeSabre concept was not just a car, it was a philosophy on wheels. A philosophy that design should inspire, that technology should lead, and that innovation should never be afraid of being bold. It served as a harbinger of the future, introducing Americans to ideas that would later become industry standards. From its daring aesthetics to its technical wizardry, the LeSabre remains one of the most influential concept cars ever made.
By 1956, American automakers were embracing a bold new aesthetic that mirrored the space race and jet age optimism of the post-war era. The Buick Centurion concept, introduced that year at GM's Motorama show, represented General Motors' daring vision for the automobile of tomorrow. Sleek, futuristic, and technologically imaginative, the Centurion wasn't just a showpiece, it was a rolling sculpture, capturing a time when designers dreamed big, drew curves with no limits, and incorporated technologies unheard of in everyday life. The Centurion name is derived from the Roman military rank, a commander of 100 soldiers, symbolizing power, leadership, and prestige. Buick would later revive the name for production models in the 1970s, but the 1956 concept version was truly a one-of-one masterpiece built only for the Motorama showcase. Designed by GM's visionary styling head Harley Earl, the Centurion reflected both his taste for aircraft-inspired styling and his obsession with future-forward ideas like aerodynamic design, wraparound glass, and integrated electronics. Jet-age glamour on wheels. The 1956 Centurion stunned audiences with its red and cream fiberglass body, dramatic proportions, and spaceship styling cues. Nearly every surface looked sculpted by wind. Feature. Description. Wraparound canopy roof. Aircraft-style bubble roof made of tinted plexiglass, provided full visibility. Rear-facing camera. Instead of a traditional rear-view mirror, it used a rear-mounted video camera connected to a TV screen on the dash. Fiberglass body. Lightweight and innovative, much like the Corvette of the era. Jet-inspired taillights. Twin fins with jet exhaust-styled lighting elements. Sweeping body lines emphasized motion and flow, a visual metaphor for speed. Two-tone paintwork, bright lipstick red lower body with white accents and chrome detailing. This wasn't just styling for styling's sake. Harley Earl used the Centurion to showcase materials and themes he believed would define cars by 1965. Tech meets luxury. Inside, the Centurion was even more futuristic, especially for a car in the mid-1950s. It blended space-age aesthetics with surprisingly practical innovation. Interior highlights. Rear-view camera monitor, the first known use of a rear-mounted video camera in an automobile, decades before backup cams became mandatory. Aircraft cockpit theme. Toggle switches, pod-like instrument clusters, and a full-length center console. White leather and red accents, contrasting upholstery in ultra-modern colors. 4-passenger bucket seating, 2 front, 2 rear, divided by the console, rare for its time. TV-like dashboard display. In place of a mirror, it featured a built-in CRT screen for rear-view visibility, using feed from the tail fin-mounted camera. The whole design screamed futuristic comfort and showcased Buick as a brand eager to embrace luxury fused with innovation. While the Centurion was primarily a concept and not engineered for high performance, it was fully functional and drivable. Spec. Detail. Engine. Likely a 322 cubic inch nailhead V8, similar to the 1956 Buick production models. Horsepower. Estimated at 255 to 275 HP. Transmission, Dynaflow automatic. Chassis, custom Motorama-specific frame. Drive, rear-wheel drive. The vehicle was capable of movement for demonstration purposes, but was never tested for road use or production feasibility. However, it did move under its own power at Motorama events. Decades ahead of its time, the most iconic and forward-thinking feature of the Centurion was the rear-facing camera system, one of the first ever attempts at replacing traditional rearview mirrors with video. A TV camera was mounted in the rear center tail fan, aimed backward. The live video feed was sent to a CRT monitor embedded in the dashboard. Drivers could see behind them without turning around or using mirrors. This technology was purely experimental. CRTs were large, power-consuming, and not designed for cars. But it predicted modern backup cameras by over 40 years. The fact that GM would include this in a 1956 concept car speaks volumes about the forward-thinking culture at the time. Though never produced, the Centurion had a lasting influence on 1960s wraparound windshields, tail fin and dual bubble roof trends, concept of integrated electronics and dashboards, later GM concepts like the Firebird 3 and Cadillac Cyclone, and also its fiberglass body hinted at the material future of automotive manufacturing, where weight savings and sculpted designs would become more feasible. Unlike many concept cars that were destroyed or disassembled, the Buick Centurion was preserved and now is part of the GM Heritage Collection in Sterling Heights, Michigan. It is sometimes displayed at Concours d'Elegance events, museums, and Motorama retrospectives. Due to its fragility and age, it is now mostly a static exhibit. A TV star in a car show. During the 1956 Motorama tour, the Buick Centurion's TV screen became a sensation, and people reportedly stood in long lines just to see it work. In fact, at the New York Auto Show, reporters claimed it upstaged even the Cadillac Eldorado Brougham, GM's production flagship at the time. Visitors were mesmerized by the idea of seeing behind you with a screen, which felt like something from the Jetsons or a sci-fi movie. GM played into the spectacle, even parking the car next to a mock control room with technicians pretending to monitor the feed. Name: Buick Centurion Concept. Year: 1956. Build for GM Motorama. Design lead: Harley Arrow. Powertrain: Nailhead V8, estimated at 255 HP. Materials: fiberglass body, plexiglass canopy. Unique feature: first rear-view camera system in any car. Survival: one built, preserved at GM Heritage Collection. A concept that saw the future. The 1956 Buick Centurion wasn't just an experimental design, it was a visionary step forward, predicting automotive technologies decades ahead of their time. From its rear camera system to its aerodynamic fiberglass body, the Centurion showcased how design, engineering, and imagination could converge to create a car that defied convention. Today, it remains one of the most celebrated and collectible concept cars of the 1950s, a rare survivor from a bold era when cars weren't just built, they were dreamed into existence.
In the mid-1960s, the world was fascinated with space exploration, nuclear energy, and dreams of a cleaner, technologically advanced future. In this climate of innovation, General Motors, or GM, quietly built an experimental car that could have revolutionized transportation decades before Tesla or even the GM EV1. That car was the 1966 Chevrolet Electrovan 2, an electric version of the Corvair Monza Coupe, created not for production but as a testbed for battery-powered propulsion and to explore the future of alternative fuel vehicles. While electric cars seem like a 21st century phenomenon, the Electrovan 2 stands as proof that American automakers were experimenting with EVs over 50 years ago. Why GM? By the early 1960s, urban pollution, fuel concerns, and public health awareness were on the rise. Electric propulsion was seen as a possible solution to reduce smog and emissions, especially in dense cities like Los Angeles. GM's engineers, always on the cutting edge, sought to explore what a practical, highway-capable electric vehicle might look like. And they started with a car that was already unconventional, the Chevrolet Corvair Monza. The Corvair had a rear-mounted engine and a flat floor, making it an ideal candidate to house heavy battery packs and rear-drive electric motors without major redesign. The result? The Electrovan 1, 1964, and later its improved successor, the Electrovan 2, 1966. Looks like a Corvair, but hides a secret. To the casual observer, the Electrovan 2 looked almost identical to the production 1966 Corvair Monza Coupe. It had smooth, fastback styling, crisp beltline creases, wraparound headlights and tail lamps, and minimal badging. But what made it truly different was what you couldn't see. Key external changes. Feature: Electrovan 2 versus Corvair. Grille area, smoothed for aerodynamics. Badging, subtle script of Electrovan on the sides. Charging port, discreetly integrated for external AC power. Weight, nearly 800 pounds heavier than a Corvair due to batteries. An EV in 1966? The Electrovan 2 was built using cutting-edge technology of the time, which, by model standards, was both ingenious and incredibly limited. Type: silver zinc batteries, very high energy density for the time. Total voltage: 532 volts. Configuration: 24 battery modules under the hood and in the rear compartment. Range: approximately 40 to 80 miles, depending on driving conditions. Charging: plug-in AC system, no regenerative braking. Silver zinc batteries were used in aerospace and military applications, not cars. They were expensive, short-lived, and hazardous, but they offered high power in a compact size. Motor type: 3-phase AC induction motor. Output: around 115 horsepower. Transmission: direct drive, no gears. Top speed: around 80 miles per hour, 129 kilometers per hour. 0 to 60 miles per hour, estimated 16 to 18 seconds. Despite its heavy weight and early battery limitations, the Electrovan 2 was smooth, quiet, and remarkably modern in its performance. The Electrovan 2 included some remarkable technologies: high-voltage electrical systems, unusual in any car of the time, custom-built AC inverter and control systems, basically an early EV brain, advanced cooling system for batteries and motor, zero emissions, a truly zero-tailpipe vehicle long before regulations required it. At a time when most people associated electricity with home appliances, GM had built a functional, highway-capable electric car. Despite its promise, the Electrovan 2 was never intended for production. GM engineers made it clear this was a research project. The issues they faced were substantial. Limitation: details. Battery life: silver zinc batteries lasted only 100 recharge cycles. Battery cost: prohibitively expensive, far more than the car itself. Weight: made the car less efficient and sluggish. Lack of infrastructure: no charging network or standards. Public readiness: consumers still preferred gas vehicles. In essence, the world wasn't ready yet, and neither was the technology. Still, the project gave GM invaluable data about EV viability decades before EVs returned to the mainstream. Electrovan at the Pentagon. In 1966, GM arranged a high-profile demonstration of the Electrovan 2 at the Pentagon, where senior officials from the Department of Defense and Department of Transportation were shown the car in action. According to period reports, military brass were fascinated by the idea of a stealth vehicle, an electric car that made almost no sound, useful for covert operations or patrolling quiet zones. While the military never adopted the Electrovan directly, this demonstration laid the groundwork for future exploration of EV technology in tactical and fleet applications. While it never went beyond the prototype stage, the Electrovan 2 was part of a long lineage of experimental GM electric vehicles, including the Electrovan 1, 1964, a basic testbed with lower voltage, the Electrovan, 1966, the world's first hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, and GM EV1, 1996, first mass-produced EV in the modern era. The Electrovan 2 proved that highway-capable EVs were possible. In fact, much of its experimental technology found its way into modern battery management systems, high-voltage safety architecture, electric drivetrain software and controls. Today, the car is preserved in GM's Heritage Center, serving as a testament to a time when GM engineers were years, even decades ahead of public thinking. Spec, detail, model, Chevrolet Electrovan 2. Base car, 1966 Chevrolet Corvair Monza. Power source, 532-volt silver zinc battery pack. Motor, 115 horsepower AC induction motor. Top speed, 80 miles per hour. Range, up to 80 miles in lab tests. Transmission, direct drive. Built, one prototype. Preserved? Yes, GM Heritage Center. Notable innovation, one of the first high-voltage EVs with a full control system. The 1966 Chevrolet Electrovan 2 was a silent trailblazer. Though it never reached showrooms, it represented GM's belief in the electric future at a time when no one else was thinking about it. It's a car that reminds us great ideas often arrive long before the world is ready for them. And in the Electrovan's quiet hum, we can hear the distant echo of today's electric revolution.